made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Gave thee life and bid thee feed by the stream and o'er the mead. Gave thee serving of delight, softest clothing, woolly bright. Gave thee such a tender voice, making all the vales rejoice. Little lamb, who made thee? Dost thou know who made thee? Little lamb, I tell thee. Little lamb, I tell thee. He is called by thy name, for he calls himself a lamb. He is meek and he is mild. He became a little child. I, a child, and thou, a lamb? We are called by thy name. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee. Imagine going through life and never knowing who your mother or your father is. Imagine spending your life longing to meet your mother. Imagine spending your childhood in complete isolation, in almost complete darkness. Never ever seeing the sun or the moon or the stars. Never seeing the green grass. Never smelling the fragrance of flowers. Never knowing the trees in spring and summer, never tasting the fruits of fall, never feeling or seeing the white mantle of snow on the hillside. Imagine never meeting another human being. It is so hard to imagine. Inscribed on his tombstone, here lies Kaspar Hauser, riddle of his time, unknown birth, mysterious death, 1833. Nuremberg, Whit Monday, 1828. In a square in the town stands a figure, 15, 16 years old, shabby dressed, shirt and breeches, ill-fitting shoes that cause his feet to bleed. He stands there, a hat in one hand and a letter in the other. The town is almost empty. People have left to picnic on this Whit Monday in the countryside, the day after Pentecost, the day of the Holy Spirit, the day when people listened and understood with their hearts. He stands there. Two townsmen notice him. They're both shoemakers. They come over to him. They ask him,
"What's your name? Where are you coming from? What are you doing here?"
I want to be a rider like my father. I want to be a rider like my father. I want to be a rider like my father.
The shoemakers can make no sense of this. They see the letter. They see that it is addressed to the captain of the cavalry of Nuremberg. So they take the youth. They pull him, they push him into the house of the captain. The captain is not there, so they hand the letter to someone who answers the door. And they take the youth and put him into the stable. He immediately falls asleep. Later on that day, the captain returns and goes to the stable. The youth is aroused. He lunges at the captain's splendid uniform, the golden buttons. The captain pushes him away and opens the letter.
I am sending you a boy, Captain, who wishes to become a soldier and serve his king faithfully. This boy was brought to me in 1815, one winter's night. He was found lying at my door. I have children myself. I am poor and can hardly make ends meet. He's found me. I have not been able to ascertain his mother. I have never let him out of the house. No one knows his name, and he does not know the name of the house nor the name of the village. You may ask him, but he won't be able to tell you. He is able to talk decently. If he had had parents, he might not enter into a decent calling. You show him anything, and he will be able to do it at once. I took him out of the house in the middle of the night. He has no money about him, so if you don't want to keep him, you will have to kill him and hang him in the chimney.
There was also another letter, which would appear to have been written by the youth's mother, saying she could no longer take care of him. This letter was dated much earlier than the one written to the captain. But it was the same handwriting and the same ink. Something was not right. The police were called, and once again they asked him the questions. Where are you coming from? What is your name? What are you doing here?
I want to be a rider like my father. I want to be a rider like my father. I want to be a rider like my father.
The police can make no sense out of this. So they took the youth to the jail, to the tower, and there he was put into custody of the jailer Hilti. And Hilti was the father of 8 children. And he immediately saw in his youth a very, very young child. He saw the innocence. He saw just the beginnings of growing up, the beginnings of speech, the beginnings of knowing the world. The jailer was deeply touched. Soon after, the mayor was called. In there, he was deeply touched. He immediately began to write a proclamation in which he said,
This youth, this Kaspar Hauser, is a pledge of love for the town of Nuremberg.
There were those who were not happy with this, but the mayor felt this gift, that they needed to take care of this youth. Next, there appears Ansel Ritter von Feuerbach. the president of the Ansbach Court of Appeals, a noted magistrate, a noted detective, criminologist. He is so moved upon meeting Kaspar that he says,
This is the eternal manifest in the body of an angel.
Feuerbach will now commit himself to trying to understand where did this angel come from. Then the doctor is called, and the doctor examines Kaspar. He's astonished by the purity of the skin, by the purity of his hair. Yet he sees nothing wrong with this youth, except, as he says,
He has been abandoned. He has been offered no education. He has not had a proper upbringing. Society have abandoned thee.
But otherwise, there is nothing wrong with him.
of course, by now word had got out, and the townfolk are coming, and they're going up the stairs of the tower, and they're ogling and wondering, what is this? Some are taunting him, and some are touched. Many gifts are offered to this youth. Little tin soldiers, little wooden toys. Kaspar takes good care of them, puts them under the bed, brings them out during the day, lines them up throughout the prison cell. Aristocracy comes and visits. There are articles in the newspaper worldwide. Feuerbach describes
This boy will take little pieces of paper and pictures he is given, lick them with his tongue, and put them up on the walls of the cell. By the evening, he will take them, each one so carefully, and pile them neatly. By now, it has really become obvious that he does not belong in a prison cell.
And so Professor Daumer is found to take care of Kaspar and educate him. You could say that Daumer was an individual who understood the possibility of transformation, who understood the many layers, many qualities of the human soul. He's careful with Kaspar, does not want to tire him, but teaches him every day. He teaches him to read, to write, to do arithmetic. He also teaches him to play the piano and to draw. Kaspar learns at an absolute miraculous rate. It almost doesn't make sense how quickly he learns to read and write. It is very hard to believe. There are other capacities that Daumer discovers.
Kaspar is able to see colors in the dark.
Yellow, red, and blue.
Be even able to discern colors, even when they're covered with soft. With Kaspar sits in the garden, animals from the forest come and visit him. However, all this ends when I encourage Kaspar to eat meat.
So beginning in the summer of 1829, Kaspar has now come so far that he begins to remember where he was before he arrived or was placed in that square in Nuremberg. He begins to write his autobiography.
This life story of my former condition is written from memory. The prison in which I was obliged to live was about 6 to 7 feet long, 4 feet wide, and 5 feet high. At the front, there were 2 small windows with wooden shutters that looked quite black. On the floor, there was straw on which I used to sit and sleep. My legs were covered from the knee with a rag. Next to my bed, on the left, there was a hole in the ground in which there was a pot. There was also a lid on it, which I always had to push aside and cover again. The clothes that I wore in the prison were a shirt, a short trouser, but without a seat, since I could not remove them to use the pot.
Kaspar told how he was fed bread and water. He was chained to the floor and spent his waking time playing with 2 wooden horses and a little wooden dog in the darkness. He only came in contact with the person who took care of him the week before he was released and taken to that square in Nuremberg. Before that, he experienced when he drank the water, he then fell into a deep, deep sleep. You could say he was drugged, and then his clothes were changed, and his nail trimmed, and his hair cut, and his body washed. He writes that week before he was released.
The jailer, the man, placed a very low chair in front of me. He then took my hand and he made me write something. And he kept saying,
You are learning. You are learning. You are learning.
until I could write quite clearly. Kaspar, Hauser.
There were those who were unhappy, who now became fearful of the fact that Kaspar was now writing his autobiography, and more people were becoming interested in him. So on October 17th, 1928, Professor Daumer came home after the afternoon, and there was a pool of blood that led down the stairs to the basement of the house. And there he found Kaspar with a deep gash across his forehead. Kaspar was able to tell how he was attacked. When he was in the outhouse, a man wielded an axe at him, and he thought for a moment that this person was the person who had taken care of him and imprisoned him. The man shouted at him,
"You will not leave Nürnberg alive."
This attack shook all of Nürnberg. What to do, how to protect Kaspar. And so his guardian, Baron von Tuchner, took Kaspar and placed him in a family, the Bieberbachs. However, this did not go well. Mrs. Bieberbach developed a strange sort of sensational relationship with Kaspar, so Kaspar had to be removed. Then he lived with Baron von Tuche. In May 1831, a lord, an earl from England, appears in Nürnberg and wants to know if he could meet this Kaspar Hauser. Nürnberg is quite happy to engage this earl, for he appears to have great wealth. And so this would take some of the financial burden off the town. This Lord Stanhope meets with Kaspar and fills him full of fanciful ideas. He gives him many gifts. He lavishes praises on him. He tells him he will take him away to England to live on his estate in his castle. Kaspar is completely enamored by this lord, to such a degree that Professor Daumer, Baron von Tuche, and Feuerbach all realize this has to stop. So in November 1831, Tuche confronts Stanhope and tells him he must decide for meeting with Kaspar, or he must take full responsibility for Kaspar. Stanhope chooses the latter, and so becomes Kaspar's guardian. He takes Kaspar and moves him to the town of Anselbach to teacher Meyer and his family. Teacher Meyer is the complete opposite to Professor Daumer. Meyer is narrow-minded. He's a disciplinarian. He has his way of seeing things, and he considers Kaspar to be a liar, to be a fraud. He's suspicious. He doubts Kaspar. So in October 1832, he begins religious lessons to be confirmed. So he has lessons with Pastor Heinrich Fuhrmann. When Kaspar hears the story of the Passion of the Christ, he could do nothing but cry, feeling deeply the suffering of the Christ. And so in May 1833, in the chapel of the Knights of the Swan in Ansbach, Kaspar is confirmed.
We say, take the ship.
Soon after this, the magistrate, the detective, the criminologist Feuerbach dies violently. It appears he has been poisoned. He has the year before published a book called Kaspar Hauser, a case of soul murder.
Before my death, I sent a letter to an aristocrat, a queen living in Munich. I contacted her, saying that my research had led me to the conclusion that Kaspar was the heir to the House of Baden. He had been abducted as a little child, and then a sickly child was placed instead of him. This was all so no one could discern when Kaspar was born. He was born on Michaelmas, 1815.
Stanhope never visited anymore. Kaspar, fierce and loyal supporter Feuerbach, was dead. He lived in a terrible situation with the Meyer family. You could say Pastor Fuhrmann was his saving grace. Otherwise, Kaspar's life was very lonely. On December 14th, 1833, Kaspar spends the morning with Fuhrmann, making Christmas presents. He's eager to go to the court garden at lunchtime. He's eager to go to the court garden at lunchtime. He has been told that there is someone there who will tell him about his mother. So at lunchtime, he hurries to the court garden and meets this person in a secluded part of the garden. The person shows Kaspar a purple pouch. and says that the pouch, Kaspar will find out more about his mother. So Kaspar reaches for the pouch, and then this figure, the Sicilian, stabs Kaspar. There's snow on the ground. Kaspar struggles home. He tells teacher Maya what has occurred. He's not believed. Teacher Maya takes him back to the court garden to see if there's any evidence. And of course, they find the pouch. And in the pouch, there's something enigmatic, taunting message about who has attacked Kaspar.
This is not enough evidence, even though there is a wound.
That can one fairly see. I think Kaspar Hauser has done it to himself.
Eventually, doctors are called.
The wound go deep in the bottom of the heart, into the liver. There is nothing to be done. Succidente nobody.
So for 3 days, Kaspar lies in bed, being interrogated, being visited by those who love him, but also those who fear him, who doubt him, and those who hate him. Just before his death, he said,
The monster was too great.
Is there anybody you wish to forgive?
No one has harmed me. Please play for the person who attacked me.
Kaspar dies on the 17th of December, 1833. Once again, his funeral is attended by those who loved him, those who feared him, those who hated him, who doubt him. Little lamb, God bless thee. Little lamb, God bless thee.